Welcome on back, everybody, to episode 105 of Streaming with the Mouse, where today we are recapping the first two episodes of Marvel Studios' Hawkeye, now on Disney+. Sit back, relax, this is Streaming with the Mouse. Welcome on back, everybody, to Streaming with the Mouse. My name's Cam, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, my co-pilot, Cliff. Cliff, say hello to the nice people.
Hello, everyone.
Cliff.
We're here. We made it, and now our hiatus of Marvel or Star Wars shows is over.
We just got tons of it in our face. We have basically the next 5 weeks now of Hawkeye, or 4 weeks of Hawkeye. Then we're gonna get Book of Boba Fett right after that. It's a good time to be a Marvel, Star Wars, and Disney fan overall. Cliff, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was good. What is your favorite Thanksgiving dish?
I'm a big. I just love stuffing. I'll eat a
You're
whole
a big stuffing guy.
Yeah,
You're
I'll
a big
eat
stuffing guy. I mean, I can vouch for that. I'll do that as well. But the more important question is, what did you dress up for Thanksgiving?
I wore polo and jeans. I'm very against dressing up for Thanksgiving. It's one of my biggest pet peeves in the entire world. I don't think we have to dress up to see our family. I just don't. I think it's stupid. We should all just wear nice, comfy pants because we're going to eat a bunch and we're going to watch football. That's all we're going to do all day. So let me wear my sweatpants. Let me wear a football jersey. That's what we should all be wearing. That should be the national coverage of Thanksgiving outfits.
Oh, it should. I don't have. I think it's fine to start in nice clothes. But as soon as it's time, I mean, you eat so early anyway. I want to be comfy for the rest of the day.
No,
I think it's fine for pictures, and then we can move on.
Screw your pictures. It's done. I hate dressing up for Thanksgiving. That was.
What about Christmas? Do you
no,
dress up for Christmas?
I will because I have to. But I think I'm against Easter. No, we should all just wear comfy clothes. We're family. We're not going to a nice restaurant. We're eating at my mom's house. It's fine. Whatever.
I hope she doesn't listen. I hope she doesn't listen to this. Saying it's not a fine restaurant.
No, she knows. She knows my opinion on dressing up at this point.
And for Easter, we should just all wear bunny costumes.
There we go. There we go. But Cliff, we got Hawkeye to talk about today. More importantly, we got 2 episodes. We'll skip news, I think, for this week. I don't think there was much anyway. Oh, you have one?
One easy thing. If you have not seen Eternals yet, you will soon enough. January 12th, 2020. In 68 days. Eternals will be free on Disney Plus
definitely we'll have to rewatch that.
For the masses.
Awesome. That sounds good. All right, should we get into it? Because we got a lot to talk about for episodes 1 and 2.
There's 2 episodes, so let's get to it.
We're not going to do this we're going to do this how we've been doing these kind of recaps. We're talking about the main bullet points here. We're having a conversation. We're not recapping too much. We're assuming you've already watched this, so spoiler alerts, or watch it or listen, I should say.
Not really much to spoil, for being honest.
But just in case, spoiler alerts if that's happening. Let's talk about the prologue in episode 1, Never Meet Your Heroes, which I thought was a perfect episode, a perfect beginning. Let's talk about that prologue. So we start off here in 2012, as we know. Kate Bishop, she's younger in this, different actress, obviously it's not Haley in this, but you kind of get the sense she's living with her wealthy parents, Eleanor and Derek Bishop, in this big penthouse in New York City, when all of a sudden the Battle of New York begins. And the whole time, Cliff, as soon as it says 2012, I was looking out every window waiting, when's it happening, because we know the events of Avengers 1 was going to happen where we're in New York, the Chitauri are going to attack, or we're going to have the big Battle of New York. And then when it finally happens, it was really great. Kate's by herself. She's about to get basically killed by this Chitauri soldier, and she's saved by Hawkeye. Which makes sense why she's obsessed with Hawkeye at this point. But what did you think of this prologue, of this opening? I love that. I love whenever we get to go back to Marvel moments and see the other side of things. That's why I loved Endgame, because we got to see, quote unquote, behind the scenes of other things. We saw the Battle of New York, and we saw, the Sorcerer Supreme at the time was helping out in that battle. And now we're seeing the Battle of New York from Kate's perspective. So what were your thoughts on that?
Well, first off, her parents, where were they? She was staring at a war for a solid 5 minutes before her mom was even able to find her. Where is CPS?
Yeah,
when you need them. But it was really cool to see another aspect of it, because we actually saw Loki in that, I believe, too. We saw him flying by. And for a long time, I've always referred to, if Loki is your favorite Avenger, it's like saying Ringo is your favorite Beatle. But in Kate's example, it makes sense
There's no,
because
hold on. I'm not letting that. What's wrong with Ringo? We're not. That's a different conversation for a different day. When we talk about Get Back, we'll talk about that. That was I didn't like that comment.
No. I'm not saying Ringo is bad.
Okay.
It's just that Paul, John, and George all were better. That's like the whole thing. And that was like the joke where if you watch the old Beatle things, it'll be like, Ringo, do you think you're the best drummer in the world? And Paul would go, no, he's not even the best drummer in the band. And that's just the thing. It's just the whole thing of he's good, but there are always...
Poor Ringo. Okay, let's get back to Hawkeye. We'll talk about it.
Thanksgiving, the rolls are great for Thanksgiving, but why did you pick rolls over stuffing?
Sure. Okay, fine.
That's why.
I don't need my Ringo slander here on this podcast. I will not stand for it.
Is Ringo your favorite Beatle, Cam?
No, but I love Ringo.
Did I strike a nerve?
No, it's Paul, but I love Ringo.
But it was really cool to see the perspective, and it made sense why Hawkeye was Kate's favorite at this point, because literally he saved her life.
And what's nice too is I'm going to count the credits as this, because we had opening credits for this that weren't in the second episode. I'm assuming it's not going to be in the third episode or fourth, fifth, sixth. But what was nice is the credits added to the story here. And basically what happens in the credits, we see the progression of Kate becoming a master archer and a master, I think, judo or wrestling or karate kind of thing. She basically goes, like, the whole credits is this really cool art style. Looks just like the Matt Fraction run of Hawkeye, where you see her, like, losing in fights of judo and, I don't know if it's judo or karate, one of those martial arts.
She has her black belt in something.
Yeah, so we see her failing at martial arts, failing at archery, and then building up until she's a champion at both kind of thing. So that was a cool way to do it, to one, bring her to the present day, or bring us to the present day with Kate, and also showing, hey, she went from this scared little girl about to get killed by a Chitauri to being saved by Hawkeye, who's now her idol, and now because she idolizes Hawkeye for saving her life, that's why she's picking up archery. She's picking up these fighting skills, so that way when we do see her fight later in this episode, we're not like, how the hell did she learn all this kind of thing? We know that she learned it. So I thought that was a really interesting way to show that progression without it just... It could have just been a throwaway line, like, later in the episode, like, it kind of was, like, oh, you got your black belt in this kind of thing, and it would have been like, okay, but it was nice to see her fail and then succeed, I thought, in the opening credits.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, and it kind of sets up the perfect replacement is kind of, I think, what it is, because it's a great way of going through the years without having to show it.
Sure.
Which is great, and I think a lot of people, and myself included, I think people really set, like, the biggest, like, takeaway from these first two episodes were they really nailed Kate Bishop right out of the hat. Like, it didn't take time for her to settle in. Like, they just had her. They just had exactly what they wanted her to be, and it worked. It glides right into the story, which is the most important part, because you don't want someone that is really, like, sometimes when they do this, it can be annoying at first for some people, where they're like, I don't like how they're written, yada, yada, yada. And this was a case where it just felt normal right away.
Yeah. And what's nice too is we really see early on that Kate, like, marches to the beat of her own drum kind of thing. We see her shooting the arrow at the bell tower to make the bell move to impress her friends, even though it's something that, like, you wouldn't think a superhero would want to do, because a superhero wants to do the good thing, like, hey, I'm going to get in a little bit of trouble here to show off to my friends. Mm-hmm. We also see her getting in trouble by her mom after that incident where the clock tower basically breaks, or the bell tower, I should say, breaks. And we also meet Eleanor's new boyfriend, because in the Battle of the New York scene, her dad, Derek, does die. But we meet Jack, who's very sus at this point, and I think is very sus throughout this episode. But they kind of go around, like, whatever, we'll talk about this later. We're going to this big gala kind of thing. You're coming. And Eleanor and Jack are attending. Kate, again, marching to the beat of her own drum. I really like this it's a tiny little moment, but it shows that she does that, where her mom's like, oh, I have this nice dress for you out in your bedroom. And Kate does not wear that dress. She wears a nice suit instead. So again, showing her defiance a little bit. I thought that was a great way to show that.
I think she would have wore the dress if the boyfriend if Jack didn't show up. I think she does small things to rebel against her mom when she's mad at her mom.
And that's but that character.
No, I know what you mean.
Without it
I'm just
being
saying, like if Jack didn't show up, it would have been fine. Nothing bad would have happened.
Yeah, and what I like is they don't have to say that. Like, her mom never got mad at her for wearing the dress. I love that kind of stuff because it's just like these slight little digs against her mom, showing her rebellious side. I think is cool. But at this dinner, she meets, or not meets, but she reacquaints herself with Armin Duquesne III, who's Jack's uncle, and she learns that she's been lied to this whole time. So Jack obviously is now living in her house, obviously taking up her father's place in her mother's life, but also they're engaged, and no one told Kate, which is obviously super upsetting for her. Definitely something I would not want to find out from a third party kind of thing. But any thoughts on this gala or anything like that? Obviously, we got some big things happening in a little bit. But
well, I want to go back to the clock tower for just 2 seconds.
Sure.
Or bell tower, or both. They didn't really tell us, but they actually did tell us in this. Do you know what the tower is called?
I do not.
It's called Stain Tower. And it is the oldest university bell tower in the United States of America in the MCU, located in New York City, and is named
like Obadiah Stane?
Obadiah Stane.
That's awesome.
That's a cool little fact. I like that.
That's good. I like that a lot.
They don't say what college she goes to. It just is a college in New York City.
Right. At the gala, Kate does catch Armin like threatening Eleanor, which I thought was really interesting, and this really starts to get into, hey, Kate can do a little detective work too, and she's kind of stealthy, so she ends up following Armand and supposedly Jack, who's also down in this hotel basement, to a black market auction, which I think is like super funny that you have this rich people gala up top, but then you also, you think like all those people are in the know, but then there's even a seedier part of those rich people where there's a black market auction happening right underneath, basically. That big gala, which I thought was really interesting. But at the auction, they have different items there. The ones that they key in on are the Ronin's retractable sword and his cowl that was obtained from the wreckage in the Avengers facility.
Yes. I had a bad feeling about Jack from the beginning. He looks just like a pompous douche. What were your original feelings on Eleanor? We obviously have a general spoiler about the comics, but what was your feeling of Eleanor?
She sucks.
She already seems sucks. Like the act. She already feels like a villain.
Yeah,
that's the thing. It's like, even though like I know in like the comics she's the villain, she feels like she's very condescending. She very much gaslights Kate multiple times throughout this episode, and honestly, I totally had the feeling that what was his name? Armand the Third. Even though he was threatening her, it's because she did something. I think
she threatened him before, and we didn't see that.
Exactly. And also, we can probably refer to Jack as Armand the Fourth, is my guess. No. That was kind of my guess. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that when we get to it. But
okay.
The black market thing, she definitely is the one that's leading the black market auction.
I think her mom knows about that black market thing 100%. I think
she's everything the one that got the stuff.
Yeah, and like what's funny is you have Kate who's trying to be like, Mom, like Jack is evil, more or less kind of thing. Like we see her, is it episode 1 or 2? I think it's episode 2, where she tries to like fight him and stuff like that in the fencing. But essentially, like trying to prove to her mom that like, hey, something's fishy going here. Her mom knows everything. I'm convinced she knows everything. She's the most sus person in this entire show at this point, I think. Like, I think some people are saying, oh, that the mom is evil and Jack isn't. He's just a bumbling idiot, maybe, potentially. I think they're both in cahoots, and I think the mom is, like, the big ringleader here. And I think there was some sort of fight between Armand and the mom.
I mean, not to even spoil anything, because it's obvious. He's a well-known... Jack is swordsman.
In the comics.
The comics. And, I mean, we get that whole thing also.
Yeah.
He has a weird fetish with swords.
At the auction, like I said, they're bidding on these things. Jack has this affinity for swords. It's a big black market thing where people want the Ronin's gear. This entire time, I was really just waiting for Vincent D'Onofrio to start bidding on something as Kingpin. I was like waiting the whole time with bated breath. Is he coming? Is he coming? He didn't come in this episode, but some other people do come in this episode where the tracksuit mafia comes in and basically bombs the place. They try to steal some of the auction items, try to rob people. Kate grabs the suits, puts it on, and fights the tracksuit mafia by herself, which is really, really cool. However, the big issue is that now people think that the Ronin is back, and the Ronin has a bunch of enemies, especially in the underworld, because the Ronin, as messed up as it is that Clint, when he was Ronin, was killing all these people, he was killing bad people. So it's not like he was just killing random Joe Schmoes. He was killing really bad people who have some grief with Ronin at this point. And then the worst part is that Kate brings that home to her, basically. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But what do you think about this? I thought Kate was a great fighter. And again, it was earned that she was a great fighter because of that, the credits. I thought that you told that story, in my opinion.
Did you see what the tracksuit mafia was trying to steal?
No, I did not off the top of my head.
They were trying to steal a watch from Tony Stark's personal collection.
Oh, was that what it was?
And people zoomed in on the watch, because people are psycho, and it looks like one of the Gauntlet watches.
Gotcha.
And people were starting to be like, is this a direct tie-in to Armor Wars, where people start stealing Stark tech because he's dead and distributes it to the masses? That would be really cool. And then it's pretty much
that makes sense.
And then it's Rhodey just playing, as always. If you're related at all to Tony Stark, you have to clean up all of his messes.
That would make sense. And honestly, like, we do see Electro in the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer. It has what looks like some Stark tech a little bit too, which doesn't really make sense because Tony Stark wasn't in his universe, but is in our universe. Even though at this point he's obviously dead. So that'll be interesting if that does have something to do with it. I guess that'll be interesting to see, and that makes sense if that is not even like a tie-in, but just a little like, hey, hat tip, Armor Wars is coming kind of thing. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, sure.
So we get a lot of Kate in this. This is Hawkeye. We're obviously going to get some Clint. We get Clint at Rogers the Musical. Before we get to our thoughts on it, because I loved it. There was a really emotional scene where, like, the music stops playing. There's no sound, and he's just, like, sad because he sees the actress portraying Nat, who was obviously dead and had a big part in his life, his best friend. So it was really touching to see him, like, get kind of emotional and zone out a little bit during the musical, and needing to go get air was interesting, I thought, in my opinion. Part of that going to get air is going to the bathroom, seeing that Thanos was written on the bathroom stall, which can't feel great, especially when you fought and defeated Thanos. Can't feel good there. But what are your thoughts on this moment, the musical in general? I love the musical. I'll throw it out there. I thought it's hilarious. I've listened to the song like 6 times already because it's on Spotify. It's very fun.
You're screwing up your Spotify end of year. You're going to be Rogers the Musical #1.
Yes.
It was definitely cringy, like in a good way. It was cringy in a good way. The musical was cringy in a good way. I thought it was a great way of showing Clint's PTSD.
Yeah,
right there. So that was the real spotlight. That was center stage. Was Clint's PTSD, which he handled very well. Because if you think about it, he probably blames himself for the battle in New York because he let himself get captured by Loki. So already one of the worst days of his life, and then someone dressed up as Natasha is dancing, strutting around the stage, literally reminding him about his other greatest mistake. And then Ant-Man's there for some reason.
Which was very funny, too, because he was like, I don't remember him being there, because he wasn't.
Yeah, because he wasn't. Scott was still in jail.
Yeah. No, it wasn't even... Oh, yeah, yes.
So, I thought it was really clever, because someone brought up a really good point that Hamilton exists in the MCU, and Rogers is a direct ripoff of it. So literally, they were just like, "Oh, yep, another Hamilton."
I would love this was like getting me thinking a lot, like mentally, like put Alexander Hamilton and George Washington in an audience watching Hamilton. This is what you'd get. Like this, it would be very funny, especially.
Yeah,
I don't know. It was wicked funny to see your story playing out. How it definitely didn't happen because, like you said, there's no
the extreme inaccuracy of it.
Yeah, just like it was just so funny though. I loved it. I love that they did this. It was great, and I'm glad they released the full song on Spotify. I think that's very, very cool. And
it's funny.
As soon as it happened, I was hoping they had it.
And we're not going to go through it because of how much we have to get through. The cast of Rogers is very, very well done Broadway wise. So you can look into that on your own. But there are some pretty famous actors there.
Just to wrap up episode 1, another big thing obviously that happened is Clint sees Kate as Ronan, doesn't know it's Kate obviously, on the news, gets very concerned because he knows what happened in that suit. He knows that anybody that had that suit is going to be making a ton of enemies basically because of what that suit represented during his time as Ronan. He goes to try to find Kate. Kate's kind of handling herself well, and then she's really like on the defense. Looks like she's going to get really hurt, if not killed, honestly, by the tracksuit mafia. Clint comes in, saves the day, goes to attack Ronan, finds out it's Kate, who's in shock, like, holy cow, you're my idol, you're Hawkeye, kind of thing. And that's really how it ends, kind of thing, until the second episode. But it wasn't like, I thought he was, like, mad, and it wasn't actually that he was mad. He was wanted to be protective of whoever the heck was wearing that suit, unless obviously they were a bad guy. But obviously he learns who Kate is and realizes this is the situation, this is what happens, and Kate is so green at this that bad things are going to happen, and we'll talk about those more in episode 2. But Cliff, any other thoughts on this episode or that moment in general?
Well, we have to talk about how she saves Lucky the dog.
I was going to get to that, yes. But yes.
Well, you're talking about it's the end of episode 1 already.
Well, I was going to get to it with episode 2, but yeah but yes, let's talk about Lucky the dog.
How adorable.
The best. The absolute best.
But no, it was funny because it absolutely was a thing where it's like, take off the hood. Oh, damn. This is not what I expected. And then it's the whole game of, now what? Like, how are we doing this?
Yeah. And let's talk Lucky real quick. Lucky the dog's awesome. In the comics, Clint saves Lucky, kind of. Lucky gets hit by a car, so the whole time I was like squeezing like my eyes a little bit, like peeking out, like please don't let him get hit, please don't let him get hit. He does not get hurt in this, thank goodness. Kate saves Lucky the dog with the one eye, saves him, which is great. And now Lucky's her little pizza dog, and it's very, very cute.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Also, in this episode, real quickly, I don't know if it's in this episode or in episode 2, but we learned that Clint has already lost his hearing. I think it was in this episode because he turns off the hearing aid at Rogers, the musical.
Yes, they say it pretty quick, and it was very funny. They're like, oh no, then they go through the flashback of
that's in episode 2.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that real quickly just while we have it here. Clint already has lost it, so we're not going to see him get 2 arrows stuck in his ears to lose his hearing aid.
Or are we?
Find out. We got a lot of little flashbacks to like basically times he was near big explosions, and that's what causes hearing loss. Especially, I think he's totally deaf on the right. I think on the right side or something like that, he has partially hearing on the left in this. So that's how he lost his hearing.
Have you ever seen what's it called? It just reminds me of Archer. Have you ever watched Archer?
Oh yeah, I love Archer.
It's like whenever they yell about tinnitus.
Yes,
that's more of like a ringing in the ears, but
yes,
it makes it harder to hear, and that's all it reminds me of was just like Archer yelling about tinnitus.
Yeah. All right, should we get into episode 2?
Let's get into episode 2. It's really episode 1A, 1B.
It really is. It's basically a 2-hour movie. Honestly, it really is, with a cliffhanger at the end. But episode 2 is called Hide and Seek. We get that same clip that we ended off on, where I almost said Ronan, but Clint unmasks Ronan. Turns out it's Kate Bishop. Basically brings her back to the apartment, and the tracksuit mafia are gonna be there, and we find out there because they are big enemies of Ronan, because Ronan had a lot to do. Basically, we learn Clint doesn't want to hurt Kate. He just wants the suit. Doesn't want anybody to get hurt. Kind of ask her some questions like, "Did they see you anywhere?" kind of thing. We do find out because we saw it in the first episode. Kate went back to her apartment to go bring Lucky the dog there with the Ronin suit on, meaning that the tracksuit mafia was able to catch her. They know her name because her name's on the buzzer. So obviously, again, like I said a little while ago, it shows how green Kate is to this whole hero thing, where Clint wouldn't have made these mistakes probably. Tracksuit mafia comes in, ambushes the place with those cocktails, in like basically they make like fire bombs and burn down Kate's apartment. Pizza dog is good, but in an attempt to like extinguish the flames, they have to escape. It's not effective totally, and they have to leave the suit there with the Ronin suit, without being able to bring it right away, and they have to go back and get it later. We'll talk about that in a little bit. What are your thoughts on this? I really liked how you could just click play next episode and it really transitioned back into episode 2. Again, like you said, part A, part B of this episode were the 2 episodes basically combined. So I'm glad that Disney and Marvel did release both these episodes together.
Thank God they didn't do the long opening credit scene again. I'm happy they didn't do that.
Yeah.
The Clint thing, catching the Molotov cocktail and throwing it back, was really cool. The humor that they have for the tracksuit mafia is great.
Yeah, and that's right from the comics.
Because that's the thing. It's like, it's funny to have, like, they're effective. They're just bumbling idiots.
Yeah,
and that's
like they're all saying bro and stuff. Like, that happens literally in the comics, and it's hilarious every time.
And I think, like, that's the thing. Like, yes, they're kind of stupid, and they have really, like, childish humor, but they are effective at what they do, which is kind of a nice little added bonus to it, instead of just being like the mindless thugs. Like, they do pretty well at their job, if we're being honest.
Yeah. What I liked about this scene too is, like, Kate and Clint, they just get to know each other a little bit better, where, like, Clint is acting like the hero, tossing bombs back. I'm going to call them bombs, but essentially tossing back these cocktail bombs back. But then also Kate is able to hold her own with her bow and arrow, and Clint's, like, you can see him be subduedly impressed, but not trying to show it to Kate, because that's not his personality. So I really like that they did that. So it let them know each other a little bit. Like, obviously, yeah, Clint is the hero. He's an Avenger. Fought in the Battle of New York. Fought Thanos twice, kind of thing. Or just once, actually. Sorry, just once he fought Thanos. But Kate could kind of hold her own, and we saw that in the auction scene earlier. We kind of saw it right before Clint saved her, because he does think, I have to save this girl again because she just messed up in this last time and I had to save her at that point. But Kate's able to help herself here and able to help Clint and her escape from the burning building with Lucky, the pizza dog, which is good.
I really liked the way it looked when she shot the Molotov cocktail. I thought it just looked really cool.
Yeah, it was a great scene. It really was. We do get Kate going back. Oh, you know what I didn't even mention in the last episode, and I apologize? Armand is dead. That was a thing that happened.
And I wonder who killed him. Who stole a retractable blade that was roughly that size, and you could just go tink, tink, and potentially kill your uncle?
And it is Jack.
Is there a word? Is there a word for killing your uncle? Let's find out. You can keep talking. I'll look.
Jack did steal the Ronin blade. Sorry, I apologize for just glancing over this in the first episode, but Armand is dead. Kate joins her family for dinner after this, like the battle with the Tracksuit Mafia, the fire battle, I guess they'll call it right now. Joins her family for dinner. She's convinced Jack killed the uncle for some reason, doesn't know why, but it's basically, again, like I said when we were talking about the last episode, trying to prove to her mom, like, hey, this guy's bad, and the mom's just really not hearing it, kind of thing, where it's to the point where they talk about his affinity for swords, because she's trying to get info out of him. Jack isn't really biting. They fence each other, and Jack keeps letting her win, to the point where Kate goes to basically stab him in the face to prove, and luckily this would have been bad if it wasn't, to prove that, hey, Jack knows how to actually fight. He's holding back on me, because Jack just deflects the blade right away, not even looking. Just complete instincts.
Which is hinting at swordsman.
Correct. And the mom is, like, upset with Kate, but, like, to the point where I don't think she was upset enough. Like, I would have been freaking out way more if my fiance was about to get, like, basically bladed by my daughter, and she's concerned but not enough, which again makes me feel very sus of the mom, Eleanor, because she has to know Jack is good at this. Jack can do this, because I think she's the mastermind behind a bunch of this stuff happening in the season, in my opinion.
So the word is avunculicide.
I didn't even know that was.
So I wonder if Jack committed avunculicide.
I didn't even know it was a thing. So that's good to know.
But also, he literally hinted, though, that he was going to kill his uncle. He's like, I'm about to come into a big inheritance soon. Which some people took as him marrying a rich woman, but I took it as, like, no, he's going to kill someone to get his, like, inheritance is different than marrying into someone that's rich. Right. I really liked that scene, though. I thought the fencing was really cool. And you could tell he was holding back. You could see right away. She's
reactions after. He was like, "Oh, you beat me." It's like, no, she's not 5. She's 22 years old. Like,
I know. It was interesting for sure. And it gets even a little bit crazier afterward when they're talking everything out.
Yeah. Now, let's go back to probably one of my favorite things Marvel has done, and it's the stupidest thing ever. But, like I said before, the Ronin suit gets left at Kate's burning apartment.
Oh my god.
Clint tries to go back to get it. It's not there. he's walking away because he's dressing up as a firefighter. Goes to put the gear back. Notices there's a New York City LARP sticker on one of the fire trucks. He does some digging on Google, on Instagram, finds out that one of the firefighters took the suit, is cosplaying as the Ronin for his LARP group. And Clint has to go to a LARP event. And for those that don't know what a LARP event is, which I hope you do now based off this episode if you're listening to this, but it's live action role playing, and he goes to a LARP event where everybody's into this fake fighting stuff, and he's just like, get me the F out of here with the Ronin suit. He's killing people. It's very funny because it's all these people like trying to kill him with these foam swords, and he's parading them back like, oh my god, get me out of here. Just like everything's so easy to him because he's a freaking Avenger. You know what I mean? He finds the firefighter with the Ronin suit. The Ronin suit guy, firefighter, which we learn his name is Grills, which made my comic book nerd heart so happy because in the comic books, Clint, I think I talked about this last episode, Clint has like this big apartment building that he owns. There's a guy, his name is Gil, but everybody calls him Grills because he just grills at the apartment. So obviously you don't have that, but it's just a nice little like, oh, hey, Grills, I know that from the comic books. Sorry, little tangent. But Grills is like, please, I'll give you the suit. Just let me kill you. This is all I've got in my life, man. Like, please help me out. It was very, very funny. They do this big trial by combat thing where the firefighter gets to kill LARP style. Clint gets the suit back, which is so freaking funny. But what do you think of this? I thought it was one of the craziest, most ambitious things they've ever done. Is like, we're going to spend 15 minutes at a LARP event in the show.
My only complaint, like the only unrealistic thing about this whole scene was that the LARPing group was made up of cops and firefighters. That to me, I was like, but then it was the whole thing of like a firefighter being like, "You're the hero," and I'm like,
that was weird.
I'm like, firefighters are it's celebrated. Like you're like, if you run into a burning building and save a child, you're gonna be the hero of this. Like,
right.
That to me was weird. Like I thought it was funny, like the fact that like, oh, these people that are running around the city, like being cops and firefighters, are now LARPing Vikings versus whatever it was. And that to me, like, it was hard to get the best of both worlds, because then it was like weird, the firefighter talking about how like, oh no, you're the hero, not me.
Yeah, that
was
weird.
You're a firefighter. I'm like, in some sense you are though, for what you do. And that to me, I was like, that's a little odd. But the LARPing was hilarious because they were so serious about it.
Yeah.
And just Jeremy Renner does such a great job playing such a disinterested character. Yeah. Because like he doesn't want to do this. He just wants to go home and be with his family. And do you know who Hawkeye's daughter is?
No.
It's Joe Russo's daughter.
Oh, is it?
Put her in just as like oh haha, like we have a one-off, like my daughter is Hawkeye's daughter in the MCU, and then it's like, oh no, Hawkeye got greenlit.
Yeah. That's funny.
But Hawkeye just doesn't want to be there at all.
The big thing too is like obviously he was on vacation with his kids, and that was talked about earlier in episode 1. They mentioned that he's on vacation with his kids because Laura, his wife, Clint's wife, wants him to spend more time with the kids. He has to send the kids back home while he takes care of this Ronin business. He calls Lara while he's stashing the armor or the Ronin suit, in a locker. Lara's really aware of his agenda. She's really cool about it for the wife of an Avenger. I thought was funny. He's like, yeah, I'm going to take care of the tracksuit mafia, and she already knows who these people are. She obviously knows his past, even though she wasn't around for Ronin because she got blipped. But he's like, yeah, I'm going to do like the old like catch and release thing. Like I'm going to basically saying I'm going to get caught so I can get information and I'm going to escape, which is essentially what Natasha did in the very first Avengers movie. We saw that happen before she gets called by Fury to be like, hey, you gotta get over here. Like we got an issue coming with the Avengers. But it's funny, and his wife is like, oh yeah, Nat's old move. That's fine. Yeah, no big deal, honey. You're going to get captured by a little tracksuit mafia people, and that's fine. It's all good. She's down. She's good. Shout out to Laura. We love her. But it was nice that he's doing
communication is key. Yeah, she came back and he literally said, "Here's my whole thing. Here's what I did as Ronin. Here's all the people I brutally murdered. Yeah, with my sword."
That's fine, honey. Thank you.
Yeah. So we know Clint and her have the best relationship out of all the Avengers. It's a very
they will never divorce ever.
Healthy dynamic.
Yes. But it was nice that he's using a Natasha move. And again, that goes to a little bit of his PTSD, losing his friend. So that's going to make me really sad when all of a sudden Yelena is eventually, we're assuming, going to come after Clint. That's going to make me really sad. And he has to explain, like, no, I loved her. She was my best friend. She's like a sister to me. That's going to be an interesting conversation. I hope we get that in the show. And I think we will. But I can't wait to see that too. But what do you think about this? He's going to get himself captured. He does it. We'll talk about what happens after. But any thoughts on this, Cliff?
I have a feeling when we get Elena, it's going to be very similar to what am I supposed to say? Jesus? Like, who is your master? Like, I think that's going to be very much, like, after the fight, that's going to break down roughly how it's going to go, because Hawkeye so far very much feels like, just like, on the street Thor Ragnarok, humor-wise.
Which I love. I love that.
So, it's going to be interesting that way. But no, the captured part gets pretty funny, and like it's Clint. Yeah, he literally does what Natasha does in the first Avengers movie.
And they have the nice little quips, like they put the bag over his head, and he was like, "I can see, guys. Like, what are we doing here, guys? I can see out of the bag." Like, it's just funny because he's getting captured willingly, and he's like still giving pointers, like, "Hey, like in the future, like maybe get a darker bag so I can't see out of it." People,
and when he undoes his handcuffs,
yeah, he undoes the handcuffs, but it's super funny because Kate this whole time is trying to get in contact because she thinks, hey, this guy Jack, like I think I figured out who killed Jack's uncle, kind of thing. It might be Jack. She's trying to get in contact with Clint, and she can't. She ends up hacking into her mom. Her mom owns like a technology thing, hacks into that.
She doesn't hack into it. She is given full permission to use this very illegal. This is like setting up. This mom is a villain.
That's true. She doesn't hack. She has a username and password.
This type of mass surveillance. This like confirmed to me. Oh, this woman is evil. This woman is horrible.
Yeah. So Kate's able to. You're right. Not hack. Literally username, password. You're in. Track Clint's phone, which has big implications. Which I'm wondering if that has anything to do, honestly, with the bad guys from Falcon and Winter Soldier. Because remember how they had that app?
Oh yeah.
Could they be using that app? You know, I don't know. We'll see, but probably not. But I don't know. We'll definitely have to look and see what happens there. But is able to find where Clint is, and she botches the catch and release thing where she comes in and Clint's like, I had this Kate. Like, what are we doing here? Like, it's just very funny, their relationship. Kate botches the whole operation. The leader of the Tracksuit Mafia is alerted that, hey, we've got the Ronin kind of thing. We have Kate Bishop now because they were trying to get where's Kate Bishop from Clint. Literally falls into their lap, literally from the ceiling, and we get the sense that, and we know obviously because we know who the actress is based off the reports and stuff. The leader of the Tracksuit Mafia right now looks like it's Echo, and it's nice. I like the way that they introduce her. They don't say the name Echo at all. They don't say her name at all. She's like standing next to these big speakers that are pumping music, and we know because she's Echo that she's deaf. She can't hear them, but she has her hand up against the speakers to feel the vibrations, which I thought was a cool way to like, if you didn't know who Echo was in the comics, if you didn't pay attention to who's playing who in this show, you would think, oh, that's interesting. She's like feeling the vibrations, and that's maybe how you get to the point that, oh, she's not able to hear or anything like that. She's alerted to that, and that's basically where the episode ends. I really like this episode. I liked episode 1 a lot better. I thought it moved a lot faster. Episode 2 definitely still had its strengths, though. But what are your thoughts on this little thing? Seeing Echo for the first time, I'm glad we saw her in this episode. I'm glad it didn't wait any longer because we only really have 4 episodes left. But
I wish we got more than a cliffhanger to end episode 2. This is the thing. This is kind of how I've been like with Dune. With Dune, I said the first movie's good as long as the second movie's good. Mm-hmm. That's how I see this. With this, the first 2 episodes were good, and there was a lot of setup, but these last 4 episodes have to really knock it out of the park to kind of compete with everything else. Like
to make the first 2 worth it.
Like Falcon and Winter Soldier started out incredible and kind of dipped.
Yeah, it got good at the very end, but at that point it was like, I didn't like anything that happened in the middle.
We can kind of blame COVID for that. What we know was the deleted whole aspect of Carly trying to release a contagion bomb into the world. So we know that it should have been more. WandaVision did obviously start slow.
Right.
And then Loki kind of just held it through the whole way, except for that single episode. I forget which one it was. So Hawkeye can easily blow it out of the water for the last 4 episodes, and the first two episodes are trending very well.
Right.
They both on IMDb, they both have over 8s for the score, and the overall series is an 8.2. So it's going well. It just needs to pick up, and I think it will. Especially, there's rumors that Elena is in the last 4 episodes, which could probably mean I could picture her spoiling the Echo stuff. We'll wait and see. I also have a feeling that Clint knowing sign language and everything is going to go very well with Echo. So we're going to wait and see. But I really needed to pick up before I can kind of say where this is going to rank.
Oh, for sure, yeah. But I enjoyed the first 2 episodes. I had a great time watching it. I do love we got the Christmas vibes big time in these first 2 episodes. Obviously, we will throughout the entire series, or mini-series, I should say. But the only thing that concerns me, I think there's too much. There was a lot of setup, and I think too much has been set up, and I'm wondering how they're going to wrap this all up, even in the last 4 episodes. We've only seen 1/3 of the show, and I'm already concerned how they're going to wrap it up, because we have Jack potentially being a bad guy, Eleanor potentially being a bad guy, Echo we have in here too. We're potentially bringing in Yelena. If the reports are true that Kingpin is in this, how does he get brought into the fold? There's a lot happening here.
Well, the Kingpin thing, personally, I think is it's slowly.
I think it's gonna be end credit.
It's going to be end credits. However, I don't think they've bitten off too much.
Okay.
I think Jack and the mom work together. Sure. They seem like it's more they're combining a crime empire. That's more what it seems like. And with the uncle being out of the way, Jack doesn't just inherit money; he inherits the powerful friends as well.
Right.
So what my guess is it probably leads up to the true leader's Kingpin pulling everything from the shadows. It would be cool if we get an Echo throwback episode where we see Kingpin kills her dad and then recruits Echo in to run the Tracksuit Mafia, which would be interesting. But then, obviously, I think the ending of it is going to be Hawkeye, Kate, Echo, and Elena against
the mom.
The combined Mafia, whatever this mob is going to be. That's how I don't think, like, Hawkeye or Falcon Winter Soldier, they bit off way too much.
Yeah, that's true.
They couldn't, and they choked on the execution of it.
True.
This, I think it seems bigger than people expect. It looks bigger than it actually is.
Yeah, maybe even the 3rd episode will get it tightened a little bit more. But I really liked it. I had a fun time watching this, and that's all I need with Marvels. I need to have fun watching them, and I had fun watching these first 2 episodes for sure.
That's a good way to put it.
Cliff, any other final thoughts on these 2 episodes before we wrap up this episode for today?
I'm happy with it so far. I'd say it's a good 8 out of 10 right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's pretty good. I like it a lot. I really love the first. I really thought the first episode was a perfect introduction episode. I truly believe that. 2 was still very good. It just wasn't like 1. I just really liked how they set up. I think Kate Bishop's origin story, quote unquote, the fact that they were able to do that in like less than 50 minutes was awesome. I thought that was really great. So I really liked it. Overall, love the show. Can't wait for episode 3, and can't wait to talk to you about it more, Cliff. If people want to talk to you, Cliff, about episodes 1 and 2, where would they reach out to you?
You can find me on Twitter at CPRobinson81.
And you can find me on Twitter at CamRainbows95. You can find the podcast on Twitter at Stream the Mouse. On Facebook and Instagram at Streaming with the Mouse. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. Just search for Streaming with the Mouse. Be sure to like, rate, review, subscribe, 5 stars, all that stuff on all those different platforms that you use to listen to our show or watch our show. We really appreciate it. And also be sure to visit our website, cprob.com/streamingthemouse. I think that's all we got for today. Cliff, any other final thoughts?
I'm excited to see where it goes from here. And I don't know where it's truly going, but I'm excited to see where we're going.
Yeah, we can't wait. We'll be back with you all next week where we'll talk about episode 3 of, I almost said Ronin, but of Hawkeye. We'll see you all very soon. Have a magical day. Thanks for listening.
Bye, guys.